Salutations, respected viewers. This is George from Ireland, and in this video I'm reflecting on President Trump's recent Singapore summit with Kim Jong-un. So Kim Jong-un is the tyrant of North Korea. He doesn't have the title President or Prime Minister. There's been an on-off bromance between Trump and Kim Jong-un for the past few months. As you may know, Trump decided to have this meeting seemingly on a whim, and North Korea is also ruled by fiat, well, more so than the United States. So Trump then pulled out of the summit, he pulled back in, and then indeed it did happen. So it was anybody's guess if it was going to happen. So they both flew into Singapore, this wealthy city-state or sovereign country in Southeast Asia, which is something of a nexus for business and diplomacy in the region. Kim was adulated by the crowds, seemingly oblivious to his horrific catalogue of human rights abuses in his own country, which is really among the worst in the world. North Korea is the world's largest outdoor prison. People there are effectively prisoners, and they use slave labor there. I mean, seriously. Political dissidents, those who said one word wrong, can be toiling in horrific conditions in mines for decades. And North Koreans are sent to work abroad in a state of slavery. Really, in all but official designation, it is slavery, just to raise more money so Kim Jong-un can live in opulence and the country can be armed to the teeth. Yet Trump had only warm words for his North Korean analogue. I note how he said that Kim was tough, as in savage. Tough is something Trump calls himself all the time. So he would aspire to be like Kim Jong-un. He would aspire to have no civil liberties at all, no fair trial, just unlimited exaltation for him, untrammeled powers, president for life, dynastic rule, torture on an absolutely massive scale, executing people for the most trifling offences to bring back slavery. That's what Trump considers to be respectable leadership. It's troubling the way Trump has this fellow feeling for tyrants, yet he excoriates the leaders of free countries, such as Justin Trudeau, of whom more later. Trump aspires to be tough, as he would say, and then whines when the FBI has a search warrant which it executes in searching Trump's lawyer's office. And Trump seems to think this is the end of freedom. The man has no perspective. It's staggering, it's nauseating that he should behave like this and be so flagrantly hypocritical and constantly be so cowardly and crawling to the worst brutes of all. Anyway, Kim Jong-un went to an English-speaking school in Switzerland. Despite his Anglophone education, he didn't speak any English in public, which is a pity, but by all accounts he was not particularly erudite or diligent pupil. Anyway, when there was the G7 summit a couple of days before, and Trump's behaviour there had been markedly different. And he'd said to Trudeau, "Didn't you Canadians burn the White House?" Which is inaccurate. The War of 1812, yes, the British Army burnt the White House, and all right, Canada was part of the British Empire at the time, so in some senses Canada was involved. There might have been some Canadians there. The relevance of this was what? That's over 200 years ago. North Korea has shelled South Korea, killed South Korean sailors only a few years ago, but Trump doesn't consider that remotely germane to the conversation. The absolutely deplorable human rights situation in this wickedly cruel regime in North Korea doesn't trouble Trump one whit, yet he would rather dredge up a military action from over 200 years ago, as though that's something to be rancorous about. So Trump is going to end the war games. The US military is no longer going to practice with the South Korean military, worrying for South Korea. Are they being abandoned by an ally? Now, Trump, he idolizes Ronald Reagan, and Reagan said of appeasement, it's sacrificing your friends for the sake of your enemies, which seems to what Trump might be proposing to do. Now, the South Koreans, they would like to see peaceful unification and all that, but they're worried that the United States might leave them in the lurch and vulnerable to North Korean attack, because North Korea cares about nothing but weapons, and the government is so cruel they don't care if millions of their people get killed. Why would anyone trust Kim? Is Trump that stupid to believe a regime which has flagrantly broken its promises many, many times before? Trump struggles with the very concept of honesty, and then he calls Trudeau dishonest. Now, I don't like Trudeau that much, but I don't know of any way he's been dishonest about trade. Trump's dishonest about almost everything. But we've been here before with North Korea and South Korea. Roh Hyun-moon in the 90s had his sunshine policy, and the temperature warmed up many degrees, and there was a little bit of commerce, and tensions relaxed, but then the détente was over, tensions rose again, there was sniping across the border. So it's all a charade. This is the life cycle with North Korea. When they feel enfeebled, they will sometimes have this charm offensive. It'll be all smiles, they'll pocket a few concessions, and then they'll revert to type. But Trump knows nothing. Is willfully ignorant. He's such an idiot. He hasn't studied the history on this. He has not taken expert advice on this. He thinks that what he's done is audacious, or perhaps it's rash. So I don't believe this agreement will last. It notably does not have the words verifiable about denuclearization or permanent. So the North Koreans, they can lie, claim to denuclearize and actually not. And there's no way to prove it one way or the other. They could denuclearize and then renuclearize a few years later. Denuclearize over what time scale? The devil's in the detail, and no thought has been given to that. Denuclearize in 1 year? In 100 years? Who's to say? If they did denuclearize in 100 years, they would still be keeping to the agreement. You can't argue with that. So Trump has been outclassed at every turn. What a moron. What a disgrace he is to the United States. So he's really got a bad deal for himself. The so-called deal maker has ripped up the Paris deal, wants to pull out the Trans-Pacific Partnership out of NAFTA, has ripped up the Iran deal. I can't think what else. Talked about ripping up NATO, that treaty. This is the only deal he's made with one of the most horrendous leaders in the world, and one of the most utterly mendacious, just like himself. I can see why he recognizes a kindred spirit in Kim Jong-un. So Trump, at the press conference, was asked about this. Why no time frame for ridding North Korea of nuclear arms? Trump could not answer questions on this. He obfuscated. He said, oh, we'll have a lot of people. We'll have a lot of people. Something so non-specific and feeble as that. It was childish. It was cringe-making. No number given. No nationalities given. Absolutely no details whatsoever. Anyway, this may well be a sham. However, it is better than a Third World War. Anything would be. So if we've avoided the Third World War through this ridiculous farce, well, fine. I would far rather have this silly rigmarole than millions of people perishing in a nuclear conflict. I'm worried this détente won't last. The pressure will be eased on sanctions. In a couple of years, North Korea may well return to its usual saber-rattling and blood-curdling threats.